guys, it's Diane. I had a viewer request that I wanted to do a video on, and this is actually something that someone asked down in the comment of a video, and I thought it was such a great question that I wanted to go ahead and do a video on it, because a lot of times comments can kind of get lost down in the middle of other comments, and I thought that this was such a great one that it deserved to have its own video. And also, I've kind of been asked variations of this in the past, so I wanted to have a video that I could send to people to answer their question if they asked me in the future. But the question was, what do I do to keep the patina on my bags a little bit more even? And on the Louis Vuitton handbags, especially like the monogram and the azur bags, it has this Vachetta leather across the top, and like the handles are all this type of leather, the trim is, and it darkens with oils, natural light, artificial light. All these things kind of darken the color of the leather over time. And I actually really like the leather as it darkens, but I do prefer that it has like an even color over the whole bag. So I have a couple of quick and easy things that are very simple that I do to try to help the color of the bag leather be even across the whole bag. So I wanted to share those with you guys. And the first thing, that's kind of a side question that I wanted to answer, but it's related. I had a number of people ask me what I do to pre-treat my bags, and I think they're kind of getting at the question, like, how do you get such an even color? But I don't actually pre-treat my bags. I know that there's a number of products on the market like Apple Guard and Love in My Bags and that sort of thing. But I made a conscious decision back when I was into Balenciaga bags that I wanted the leather on my handbags to just do what they were naturally going to do. So I like the leather just being allowed to be naturally soften up over time or darken or whatever the leather's supposed to naturally do. I just prefer that it is even on whatever it does. So I do not pre-treat with anything, and I know that's kind of surprising. A couple of the people that I've told that, they just assume that I pre-treat with something, but I don't use anything to start out with. So that is the first thing. And then the next thing that I would say, and this is kind of, I think, something that probably a lot of people do anyways, but it's worth mentioning, is obviously the Louis Vuitton bags come with their own dust bag, and you want to make sure that when your bag's not in use, that you put it inside the dust bag to protect it from dust and that sort of thing, but it also protects it from light, because light helps speed up the patina process, so you want to make sure that it's protected from light. And then I also go one step further, and I want to make sure that my bags are behind closed doors. So I really like having a handbag cabinet where I can put my handbags stored in their dust bag and then close them off from any light sources or extra dust. And the other thing is having them in a heat controlled, temperature controlled environment where they're not exposed to extreme heat or extreme cold, because that will affect the leather on the bag too. Not necessarily make it darker, but it could affect the texture. So that would be the first thing, is how you store the bag. And I also would just mention, you want the leather to kind of breathe, so I always make sure to not shut it in any sort of plastic container or anything like that. The cabinet that I bought has vent slats on the front of it, and I specifically bought it for that reason, because it allows air in and out of the cabinet, and then the bags inside are just in the dust bags, so the leather on the bags can breathe through that. So that's the first thing, is storage. The next thing is the oils from your hands, and this is partially genetic, so some of this you're not going to be able to do anything about it, but I naturally just don't produce a lot of oils from my hands, so I kind of have that benefit. But the major thing that I would say is I do not use any sort of hand lotion when I'm going to be using a bag that has this Vachetta leather on it. And the reason is that adds oil to your hand, and it's going to deposit that lotion onto the area of the leather where you're grabbing the most often, and that's going to make that specific area of the leather darker over time. So I try to keep the leather all around the handles looking around the same, approximately a congruent color, and I found that not using hand lotion is a great way to A, not soften up the handles for Balenciaga bags, but B, for Louis Vuitton bags, since this is, I think, primarily going to be about Louis Vuitton bags, it's not going to darken any specific area on your Vachetta leather. And also for handheld bags, obviously I don't have a Speedy right now, but a lot of times you'll see the Speedies that have a very, very dark spot at the top of the handle where they're being grabbed the most often. When I used primarily handheld bags, and I don't use them as often now that I have kids, but before I had kids I used handheld satchels a lot more often. I would always carry them like in the crook of my arm, and I found that that helped not deposit a lot of extra oils and debris on the center of the handle. So that helps. If you have a Speedy, which obviously you have to grab in that handheld area a lot, I would carry it in the crook of my arm as much as possible. And like I have this Monty GM here, you can see that it's a fairly similar color all around the handles. And I would not carry this bag for like an hour or two shopping by the handle. I would always put it up on my shoulder while I was shopping, so that way it wasn't touching the oils from my skin or, you know, picking up any debris from my hands over time. And then another thing that I would say, and this is personal preference, but I think it would help with the longevity of the bag, and then also helps the overall appearance of the leather stay the same. But I would never set my bag in the floor, or, you know, if I'm going out to eat, I would always get a chair to set my bag on. You don't want the bottom of your leather areas to pick up a lot of dirt and debris either. So obviously the floor is a very dirty place. Sometimes I'll take videos here at my house where I have carpet, but I will just vacuum before I take those videos. And especially like out in public, I would never set my bag on the floor. Here at my house, I have a special area where I set my handbags, which are on like an entryway table, and then at our house previous, I used like a little fabric bench. But I would say don't set your handbags on the floor, because the bottom of the leather will start picking up all of the extra things that there are in the floor. Obviously you have the corners, which are going to have a little bit more wear, but I feel like that kind of helps the longevity of the bag as well. So those are some quick and easy things, some simple things that I do, and the main things come down to limiting the exposure to light when you are storing it, because light will speed up the patina process and make it darker. So say I stored this bag like this and it was maybe against a shelf, this side of the bag is going to get more light and darken quicker than this side would. So that's something to keep in mind when you're storing your bags. And then also the natural oils from your hand are going to speed up the process, which is why you see a lot of the top and the grab areas get darker, and limiting things like lotions and things like that that will get deposited onto the bag. Another thing is whenever I have my bags out, I generally only use them for a week or two at a time. So if you have enough bags that you can kind of rotate between them a week or two at a time, say you have 3 or 4 bags, I would use them for a week or two at a time, and I really feel that helps make the bags look fresher longer and not overuse one bag. So I do have an example of that here where I did use it a lot, and it kind of showed a little bit more. It's still got a fairly even patina over the handles and that sort of thing, because obviously I did the same things with not using the lotion and storing it where it was protected from light and all that. But this has a little bit darker patina because last summer I used this bag. I loved it so much. I used it for like 2 months in a row. So obviously it got a little bit darker than the rest of my bags. But again, the darkness of the leather doesn't bother me. I just prefer that it's the same color all around one specific bag. So hopefully this has been helpful, and maybe will give you some ideas as far as helping your bags patina evenly. And thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.